with all due respect.
Wait for it.
There we go. Recording in progress. So you guys both get to hear that on your end. So welcome back. This is With All Due Respect, episode number 8. Thanks for joining us. I have two of my most favorite people on here today, which is obviously Josh, that you guys get to see every time we record. And then the owner at the studio that I teach at, Jane, is with us today, the owner of SPENGA in SPENGA Greenville. So Jane, what we're going to do is just start by you giving us a little bit of background about you, who you are, how you got involved with the fitness industry, so we can kind of set up what we're talking about today.
Okay, that's cool. And thanks for letting me join you guys. And I'm excited to be here and get to share with you guys. Fitness was always a part of my life, but it was never a business part. It was just keeping me on balance and on point as I did my corporate sales in New York and in Boston. Way too many years to account, but at least 35 plus years in sales. So it was kind of my balance. I was something that I always kind of committed to. So when I was looking kind of at the next chapter, which is like pseudo retirement, is like, what would I really love to do? And it would be able to bring something back to the community. And actually, that's how we got into SPENGA, starting a business to give people access, no matter where they are, to fitness, to make their lives a little bit better.
Yeah, which is the best. It's so much fun. And whoever's listening, if you have a SPENGA near you and you've never tried it, you got to go. It's a blast. It's so much fun to be there. But yeah, Jane, would you say that fitness has always been a part of your life? Like, did you grow up in a family that had fitness present or that were healthy eaters? Because Josh and I talk about this a lot. We always say habits not necessarily taught. So when you grow up in a household that prioritizes movement and healthy eating, you're more likely to do that into adulthood.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say healthy eating as much because based on my age, that wasn't a true focus in life and in general. We were a healthy family, an active family. My father and I were specifically, I mean, because I grew up as a tomboy, I played sports as a kiddo.
Yeah.
Before Title IX kind of limited in what the offerings were, it was kind of softball or volleyball. But
yeah.
That was always a big part of my life. And I played tennis with my dad. So the physical activity was always very present growing up.
No, that's really cool. That's really cool. Anything to add to that, Josh?
Yeah,
I saw your reels turning.
So for anybody listening, can one of you explain SPENGA?
Yeah.
Talk about it, what it is, what they do. So anybody's out there is like, hey, there's a SPENGA down
Jane,
the
you
road.
Want to go for it?
Explain what it is.
Yeah, I'll give it a whirl, and then you can be my color person, Gray. What it is there's basic components of fitness, and SPENGA checks the 3 basic boxes. It's cardio, strength, and recovery. Many times when we all go on our own independent journeys, you may do one, you may do 2 of them, but usually the recovery box gets left out. So what SPENGA does is incorporate all 3, what they call the pillars of fitness, but it's accurate. It's the 3 main parts of fitness to make it a well-rounded experience, all encapsulated in an hour. So it's 20 minutes of each of the disciplines.
Yeah. So 20 minutes of spend, and SPENGA really push for resistance and power versus like anything that's choreographed. Like we have a little bit of choreography in there to be interesting and fun and high energy, but we push really heavy on endurance with speed and resistance. And then we go into 20 minutes of strength training, which is often some kind of HIIT workout, but we also slow it down a bit. Like we have a boxing style where you have 4 minutes to go through exercises versus trying to compete with the time. And then we have 20 minutes of yoga, which 10 minutes of that is into a more heart pumping, like faster sequence of yoga to really get the muscles, to keep the muscles strong and to keep your heart rate up a little bit so you don't come down too fast. And then the last 10 minutes is full recovery of more stretching and flexibility. So it's a really fun mix. It's also just really different from the average studio. And I mean, I'll say this too. I think our studio is really special just with the people that work there. So we have a really good time. So that's what SPENGA is.
So it's 1 hour. You're getting
Yeah.
1 hour. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You were in New York, right?
Yep.
And this is what intrigues me. You were in New York. You said you were in corporate sales for years, right? You said you were in sales, corporate
Yes.
sales. And did you move down here to start the Spenga? Did you to start your franchise? Did you move down here and be like, I want to do something else? What was the transition from New York to here? Because, man, to just say, hey, excuse me, I'm going to start a franchise and it's going to be fitness. And after 25 years of corporate fitness or corporate America, I'm doing something else.
Okay, this is a kind of an insane way I got here. My husband had always, he was with TD Bank in their real estate portfolio management. And part of his responsibility was the entire Northeast. And they had a huge hub in Greenville. And it was always kind of on his heart. He loved the city, always talked about it. We planned on making a trip here for a concert and then never wound up doing it because of a kiddo activity. And when I was investigating, COVID happens. So spending a lot of time working out of the house and also working my workouts out of the house. So I stumbled on Spenga. I had checked out a couple other major fitness franchise chains early on. I mean, this is kind of like the whole dream had been going on for about like 7-10 years. And those didn't come to fruition. But when I found Spenga, one, it kind of clicked and resonated. But I investigated territories in New York and New Jersey, my home base. There was nothing available. So I looked at kind of the available map and I'm like, okay, South Carolina sounds good. COVID in the Northeast wasn't really a match. So signed up, went through all the onboarding with Spenga, signed the license for 4 studios in the upstate, having never been here. So it was kind of a God thing. I mean, I kind of looked at it and as crazy as it was, we had signed the contract and we're going to develop it without my ever having been here. So we did actually take a trip, kind of checked out Greenville, and it did check all the boxes. It wound up being the perfect location and a great next chapter to start this business up.
Yeah, 100%. And again, like I argue that a lot of places just don't have anything that's even in a comparable studio to Spenga, and totally agree that we put it in, or you guys put it in a perfect location, because we have a rockin' group of people that really come into Spenga. So that kind of leads me into what I want to focus on first is I've loved your story of being a busy working mom and still prioritizing your own goals. And that's something we talk about a lot inside the studio too, is I know you're somebody that pushes people in this direction, and everybody that works at Spenga is, even if you have a lot of things going on in your life, it doesn't matter. Like, your priorities of taking care of yourself really matter. And I think coming from a working mom and coming from somebody that has raised 3 kids, I think you can hear it a lot more than you can hear it from somebody like me, because I haven't been in that boat yet, so talk us through a little bit about like how you balanced your own goals, your own journey with fitness and nutrition, with having a family and being busy as a mom and being busy as in your own career.
I mean, if you look at a career, you're serving your clients, you're serving the company, you're serving the goals. That's your focus, right? So those are defined for you by the parameters of the job and the responsibility. When it comes to your family, they're always first in what has to be done. You work as a working mom to make sure that you can afford to give them all the things that you want for them to make their lives the best they can be. So that's the priority. Their schedules are the priority. Somehow your husband fits into that pecking order, but the kids definitely jump to the front end, right? So when you try to balance all that, there's very little time for you, not only as a person, and that's the challenge, I think, as a mom, and especially as a working mom. So how do you address that so you can feel satisfied and fulfilled? And it's just an hour, right? I mean, you're not looking at, so much of your schedule is blocked out and rightfully so, with family being first and then the job being second. So carving out an hour for yourself out of the 7 days, and out of all those hours and all those 7 days, you're looking at carving out 4 or 5 hours in that entire week. But I always felt, and the reason it was super important is that was something I knew I at least could check the box, and I knew I did it. Some days I crushed it. Some days I just made it through. And some days I just checked the box. But you accomplished something for yourself for those 5 hours you committed to yourself for that week. So you have much more to give back if you give yourself just a little bit.
Right. 100%. And you say that all the time. You always tell people, you know, when they come in the studio and they're like, oh, that doesn't feel my best today. You're like, you just check the box. That's it. Period. There's some days where you crush it, some days where you get through it, and some days where you just check the box. You say that all the time. And I think that's really important to remember too, is that's kind of that something or nothing, or something, all or something mindset is you're not always going to be able to give 100%, but giving something, giving 50%, giving 15 minutes is way better than giving 0, you know?
And it's
So I think that's really important.
I think it's a commitment to yourself. I mean,
right.
Because it doesn't take away from all the commitments and your priorities being others in a job or anything else. It's just making sure that you're committing something to yourself so you can be your best.
Right. Right. Did you have any conversations along the way with Rick about, you know, I need this extra time for me in order to take care of our family? Like, did you guys have a set schedule that you grew up around, or that you raised the kids around, so that you could get your workout time in and you could get whatever time in that you needed?
Yeah. I mean, he had more of a home-based tethered because he managed a large portfolio. So he would be able to take care of his workouts during the day because he worked out of a home office before it became as in vogue as it is now. For me, the only free time of the day was that either that 5 o'clock workout, or I drive to New York. I'd leave the house at like 4:15 for the 6 o'clock workout in the city, shower, and go to work. So early morning was best, but nothing got in the way of that. That's just a matter of my getting my butt out of bed and getting that. I was my only impediment to accomplishing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's Josh loves that right there. It's personal responsibility.
The whole, you're responsible for it, right? Like if you don't get out of,
That's
like
it.
you make a choice, right? Tell people fitness is a choice, right? You make a decision to get out of bed, or you make a decision to not get out of bed. Ultimately, you make that decision, and we weigh out our pros and cons every morning, right? I love what you said about checking the box, because so much about fitness for people is just showing up. And like, if you only show up when you feel like it, I mean, I don't know of anything in the world that you could be successful at if you only went when you felt like it.
Literally. I mean, we literally just talked about this yesterday in the studio. It's a matter of, you wouldn't do anything, right? Everything can't be a PR. Everything's not your best ever, because you do nothing, you'd be frozen. So it's the commitment to doing it to your best on that given day, whatever that hour brings. You'll still accomplish something. It's still, at the end of that hour, you committed to something and you did it. That's a great way to start a day, to know that you got one thing that you committed to and you accomplished it. And just doing it is the accomplishing part, not the PR, not everything being your personal best or setting a world record, because that's not realistic.
Right. 100%.
If I only did things when I wanted to do them, I would never put away my groceries. Right.
Especially that.
And I would never do laundry.
I would never do laundry. I would never have clothes. I would have all my frozen food, because I have my groceries delivered. I don't go to the grocery store anymore. And that's horrible to say, because I feel lazy when I don't do it. But the fact that they deliver
does it
groceries,
work for you?
Oh, it's amazing to have groceries.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point.
Like every time I order it, I have a little tear in my eye, because I'm like, oh, I don't have to go to the grocery store. But if I only did things when I like to, I mean, I would never give my dogs a bath. I hate doing that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would never have my laundry done. I would never go to the grocery store. Um, I mean, I'd probably show up to work 50% of the times because sometimes you don't want to go to work, right? Um, I would never go to bed. I'd stay up late because I love staying up late.
Yeah.
I could stay up until 2 in the morning every day, but I go to bed because I know I have to. But I
Right.
mean, don't you? I think that mindset is learned. I don't think it's intrinsic. I don't think we have it. Have you always had that? Like, have you
That's
always had that
exactly what I
level of,
was gonna ask.
have you always had that level of discipline? Like, have you always been like, I just got to do it? Like, is that a mindset you have always had?
I'm kind of type A. Well, okay, I'm type A on steroids. So once, and again, I probably have to spend more time making sure what I commit to, because once I commit, I'm kind of all in. So I have to make sure that that's the right things, because you don't want to get like too trenched in on stuff that isn't healthy. But it's a, it's more of a matter of separating, Josh, to your point, what do I want to do and what do I have to do? And the have to do's are really important because they should have a value and a purpose.
Mhm.
Want to do's, that list is incredibly long, but you got to weigh it out because the want to do's aren't always the best thing for you.
Yeah. That's a good way to think about it too, because it always comes back into what we always talk about is listing out your priorities and making sure that your priorities align with the things that you want to accomplish. Because you can tell me all day long that your priorities are this, that, and the other, but until you act on those priorities, they're not really your priorities. So I think that's
100%.
100.
Yeah,
It's
I have an
just, it's a
8-year-old.
matter of making it happen. Yeah.
I have
Happy
it.
late birthday,
Yeah, yeah,
Asher.
for Asher. Yeah, I have a brand new 8-year-old, and
Aw,
we have the conversation all the time around want to do's,
Mhm.
right?
yeah,
Because what's an 8-year-old do? I don't want to do it. I want to do all the things I want to do, right? And I only want to do what I want to do all the time, and I don't want to do it. It's like, Asher, eat vegetables. I don't want to. I know you don't, right?
right.
Like I don't want to eat vegetables. Like I'd love to eat. I mean, can you imagine if we?
Oreos.
I mean, I would love to eat pizza every night, not work out, stay up till 3, sleep till 11, go to the pool. I mean, I'd love to do all that, and then and for you is fitness. There has to become a point where fitness becomes a have to do to a want to do, right? Like eventually,
Yeah,
yeah, like you work out because you have the discipline first, then eventually it just becomes part of just who you are, right?
Yeah.
well, and the thing is, if you get through the discipline part, then your body, your mind, you
Hmm.
need it in that it satisfies your personal priorities, because now your body becomes accustomed to it. So to your point, if you stop eating pizza every day, right? I mean, that's just it's a habit that if you start on good habits, then your body craves that.
Hmm.
So you talk to people that go on vacation or they're at a business, and I've had this, you're on a business trip, and so your whole schedule is kind of at somebody else's mercy, but you don't feel as good if you can't get it, you're out of your routine. So
Hmm.
I think the thing is, once you get through the discipline part of it, then your body actually craves it, wants it. So it feels good. You just
Yeah.
got to work through to get yourself to that point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we had this conversation on our last episode, into that place in your own journey where now it's fun. It's less of a
Yeah.
chore. It's still a responsibility, but now it's fun. Now you don't have, as strict of rules for yourself where you can go and enjoy things more often because you've gotten your
Right.
body to a place in your mind, to a place where anytime you work out, no matter what the workout is, you're like, wow, that contributed to the greater good. Like it doesn't matter
100%.
what kind of workout it was fun and I loved it. And I love trying something new and it was fun for me to be there. And it makes such a difference in your own life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do have a lot of, like I said earlier, a lot of working moms that come into SPENGA. We have a really big clientele, I would say.
We're blessed.
But we are, and it's again, such a fun environment to be around. But what do you think is the biggest difference maker for being in this industry, being around a lot of people? You know, what's something that you maybe pride yourself on, or something that really pushes you to get up in the morning to be in the studio every day?
I think the biggest difference or the biggest impact we're trying to make is we're not trying to fit the workout into them. We're trying to keep it in a space where we'll meet you where you are, and they can continue to advance, but we have to meet them where they are first. So there's got to be fluidity and flexibility within the context of what your fitness model is. So no matter where you walk in, it could be, you know, you just got done, you were committed to doing CrossFit for the last 10 years and you hurt your shoulder. So those people are coming in at a really high level, right? Then you have people that have had to step away because they had young kiddos and budget constrictions and time constrictions. But when they lean in, having the COVID layoff that stretched into a 3 and 4 year layoff, how do you start? And with all respect to starting, and I walk around the block or I take my dog for a walk, that's a great place. That's an entry point. But how do you get into a program where you can still start there, but continue to develop and excel and find yourself getting better? So I think that's the biggest reason and motivation that we have.
Yeah. So that kind of leads us into talking about obstacles. And sorry if you guys can hear the dogs barking. I have 3 of them here today. So they're going at it right now at the door.
A lot.
I know it's a lot, but yeah, talking about obstacles, you've been through a very personal obstacle in your own life and you can walk us through that. But I think it's a really important conversation to always have around obstacles of adapting to whatever you can. So somebody that got hurt at CrossFit or got hurt at a different style gym or got hurt in life in general, like how do you come in and how do you adapt? Because it doesn't mean that you stop in your tracks. It means you adapt to the obstacle and you come around it. So if you want to talk through your personal obstacle, because this is my Jane's a badass story.
It was quite a ways in the rearview mirror, but about 12 years ago, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. Not great. It was a huge time in transition. Mal had just gotten married. That's my oldest. My son Luke, this was in July. So he was leaving for prep school to move away, and Brett was just starting high school. So we had everybody in really kind of very critical, exciting parts of their lives, but a lot of big change going on. So that's when I got diagnosed. It's like, oh, okay, here we go. And I was fortunate and blessed to have really good doctors. And the diagnosis was one that you have to really look at how much research they've done in breast cancer and how much they know about the disease and treatment, because it's one of those ones, if you're a woman that has to face that, feel good. They know what they're doing. They really do. No matter what stage you're at, they have a program to keep you healing, at least to the best of their knowledge, because the research is deep and wide. I was very fortunate. Did have to have the surgery, had a double mastectomy in July. Brett's first game was in August. Checked all the boxes, made it to the game, and kept working, because my philosophy was if I could keep things as normal as possible, then it's just, I mean, it's a bump in the road, but it doesn't block the road. Right. So it was a challenging year and a half when you kind of put it all together, but I had an outcome, and mine was really blessed and I was very fortunate. So
walk us through what your routine looked like, because we've talked about this, what your maybe before, because we know your routine was fairly busy before and you still got into the gym, you're 3 to 5 times per week. How did your routine change?
Did not really work out during the first part of the surgery because it was just, there was the recovery
Right.
portion because double
Right.
mastectomy. That's it. That's a mess. Yeah, that's all. And then started chemo in August. So that was like an every other week. So you'd have a week off. So the week off is when I would start to try to do stuff. And I went throwback route. I went like PX 90.
Yes.
When you okay, so it's like, okay, I was you lose your hair. Okay, embrace that. So it's like not really feeling like I can go into a gym. Like I didn't have that much swagger, right? But I said, but what can I do? And it was kind of the philosophy we were just talking about with SPENGA. I could do that where I was, wherever I was, and continue to advance it in kind of the privacy. Our basement was tricked out. I mean, we had a really great gym downstairs. So I did it downstairs and I could do it at my pace and at my speed. And that made me feel good.
Yeah.
I kept working. I had chemo on Fridays. So worked from home on Fridays, took the weekend off to recover, and then got my white blood cell shot on Monday morning and went back into the office. Yeah. So I kept the same routine with everything. So
would you say that your own mental toughness and your own journey is what kept you really consistent with that routine?
I would say that's a big part of it. I would say that I was blessed with how I tolerated the chemo because I really didn't have any of those blowout weeks or couldn't get out of bed. I was super fortunate, and probably part of that was because I was healthier going into it. And again, I'm not saying that's without that, but I don't think without that, the pushing through some of the challenges made it a lot easier,
Yeah. And that's a big thing. We talked about that a little bit earlier this week too, of just like starting now and getting into whatever routine it is now. I don't care if you come into the gym once a week and you eat protein with every meal. Like, I don't care, but start something now, because when you do have a bump in the road that knocks you off your rails, it's so much easier to adapt to that obstacle than say you have that obstacle, then you have to start working out and eating well and changing your sleep and changing your stress and all of this stuff. It becomes so much harder when you're dealing with the obstacle at the same time.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at Amanda, one of our members, who always worked out. She and
Josh, this is who went into who like had contractions during my class.
Yes, these two gals, I mean, are icons in my book.
Me too.
Had always out, but they continued to do it. It's hard to start something when you have a challenge, to your point, Gray.
Yeah.
But if that's what your baseline is and you continue to stay on that, deliveries are easier, babies come easier, your bounce back is easier because they started the journey without a reason. Like you started because you were committed to yourself and your best self. Yeah.
Right. So exactly.
Start there. You're worth it. You're worth eating a little bit healthier. You're worth trying to do something to make yourself feel good.
Yeah.
And then to your point, when the bump in the road comes, it doesn't blow you back. It may take a couple steps back, but it doesn't knock you off your feet.
Right. Right. So
do most people handle like so you had chemo on a Friday, right? Yeah. That'd be your schedule. How long was that scheduled for? A year and a half? How long were you?
Yeah, it was 8 sessions of chemo every other week.
Every other week.
And then it was 34 sessions of radiation.
Okay. And that was a year and a half. And you would have chemo on a Friday.
Yeah.
Have the weekend to manage it.
Yeah.
Get a white blood cell count shot on a Monday, right?
Yeah.
And go back to work.
Yeah.
And that was your routine for 16 weeks.
Didn't miss a day.
That I don't know anything about. I do have a close family member that has actually had breast cancer, and then the breast cancer came back as in the lungs. I guess it can metastasize into the
Yep.
lungs, I guess,
Mhm.
and the bone, I guess.
Oh,
She had breast cancer, and then it came back into the lungs. I haven't been around, I wasn't around her for her chemo, but I don't feel like that's a normal story, right? Like
Yeah.
no.
most people chemo, like I remember her not being able to eat regular foods for months and being nauseous and down in the bed for days after chemo. Your story's pretty rare, right? Like when you tell
Oh,
me you had
yeah.
like chemo on and then you would never miss a day, like that's not normal. That's
She's a superwoman.
you responded
Nah.
unbelievable to that.
Well, the other thing is too, it was an interesting thing about chemo is you go and you have like the big chemo room. So there were so many people like your aunt, right? Who really had, they were warriors.
Yeah.
They were survivors. They had a story. I had an end game. I knew in 16 weeks, I was peace out, see ya, roll to radiation, and I'm good. So I will say, the people that were really battling, some of the friends that I made and lost, who really had what I call, and again, not marginalizing, real cancer. I mean, it was metastasized. They had it. One gal had stomach cancer. She was on her second year of kind of recurring treatments. Like, you have to fight this. You have to look at it as how blessed you are.
Yeah.
So there are people, and when they battle, that's why I don't want to. I was very blessed and fortunate, but you have to be motivated by the people that are around you that have it really tough. I mean, really tough. And when you know you're walking out of there in 4 months, it's like, shut up. Don't like you. There's nothing I can complain about.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So,
But I still think like I know that you feel that way, and I've told you, there's no such thing as a good diagnosis, but I still think that your mental toughness through it and the value that you placed on yourself made a difference, because somebody in your same situation could have said, "Oh my gosh, I have a cancer diagnosis. I'm going to just give up." Even if there is an end game. I just like, I don't feel like taking care of myself. I don't feel like doing any of these things, because an obstacle can rock somebody's world. And I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing to handle it that way. I'm just saying that that's such a difference to already have built so much mental toughness of saying like, it doesn't matter. Even if my diagnosis isn't good, I'm still going to take care of myself. I still owe myself that much.
and I think that's the important point. I think that that's where your mind, right, is huge.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? I mean, what are you going to do with it? I
Right.
mean, you're going to get bad things happen. There's bad misfortune, health issues, a number of things. I think you have to every day count what's the blessings. I mean, we're talking about the must do's and the wanna do's. It's
Mm-hmm.
count the blessings. I mean, mine was, I know there I have an end game. Mine was, I'm gonna come through this. Mine was, I just have a short period of time to deal with this, because you have to look at people that don't. So you have to weigh those things out and shore yourself up to fight through it, I think.
Yeah.
How old were your kids at that time?
Mel was 26, Luke was 16, and Brett was 14.
Yeah. So young. Yeah. I mean, and watching your mom go through something like that too, that's obviously life altering, but your
Well,
kids
that's the
definitely have
other
the
reason you
same
got to fight.
mindset. I
That's why you
know.
got to fight, because you can't,
100%.
like, you sit there and you owe it to them. It's like nobody, it was so funny, nobody at Brett's high school or at Luke's school knew, except it was October. Now all of a sudden my boys are rocking pink on hockey sticks, on lacrosse sticks, on their football helmets, and they're like, oh, who's got cancer? And I'm like, don't, shh. Like, it was like, we don't have to talk about it like every day. It's not like, I don't want it to be a dialogue, but
Yeah.
the boys were doing that to be supportive, you know?
Yeah.
So then you wind up making it a conversation, and that's fine. But we could have just gone through it real quietly as kind of our little posse and just kind of rolled, but
Yeah.
it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah. But then you listen to how active your kids are too. And like we were talking about earlier with the whole habits are caught thing, just how you grew up and you were active and now your kids are super active, and it creates that whole healthy dynamic inside of your household. So not only were you teaching yourself to be mentally strong, your kids were also looking at you like, oh, my mom's a badass. Like, I want to be like my mom,
It helped. I mean, it really did. They tended not to worry if, see, and that's the part where you kind of like, if you fold up like a house of cards, it crushes the kids.
Yeah.
Right. If you sit there and go, we got this, we're good. They know what they're doing. The kids can kind of relax and not lose 6 months or a year at school because I mean, that's devastating for the kids too. So that was kind of a huge motivation and Mel wanted, then she was pregnant that year too. So it's like, if you sit there and I wanted them to stay as positive as they could.
Yeah.
And that's a big motivator right there.
Yeah. Well, you want to raise your kids to have strong minds. I think that's a huge responsibility.
Jane, I'm going to go on a limb here.
Sure.
I'm going to go on a limb. I want to know how old you are.
65.
Okay. I know, like, I sometimes wonder if like I should ask that or not. Like I just well, because I say that as a way to be bragging on you, right? So like you're saying so that was 12 years ago, right? So at 53, you were diagnosed, right? And you fought that battle. I don't know the words. When does remission and cure, like they say you're recovering and you're in remission, like there's 3 years, 5, isn't there? How do they?
Yeah, I mean, the window for breast cancer is they check you for that first year, like every 6 months. Okay. And it's that 3 to 5 is the critical one.
Okay.
And that's probably what happened with your aunt. That's that critical one. And they give you kind of those preventative medications. And sometimes, as good as the doctors are, if they don't get it or your body continues to be prone to it, it can come back. So that 3 to 5 is critical.
Okay. And after 5, they consider you, like 3 to 5, you're in remission. After 5, you're cured. Like you want, like they use, I don't know how they use that, but so you had this at 53.
Yeah.
And then you moved down here at about 60, 61 with the 4 years ago. I mean, general population, everyday people have a hard time reinventing themselves at any point in their life, right? Like this is almost like a reinvent, like you left. Not only did you not come down, like you came down here without even showing up. Like you when you first said that, when you first said that to me, you're like, yeah, I bought a franchise for 4 in Greenville before ever visiting. Like I had heart palpitations, like I had anxiety when you said that. I was like, oh my gosh, like that makes me nervous. And then you did it at 61 and you reinvented yourself from corporate sales to move from New York to South Carolina, right? Like, I mean, who knows what anybody, like, you don't know what it's going to be like. And you reinvented yourself at 61 and said, I'm going to open a franchise on SPENGA.
Fitness franchise.
A fitness franchise at 61 years old. I'm opening a fitness franchise and I'm doing it at 61 and I'm moving to the South from New York. I mean, do you, any time I've ever done something that I thought was relatively brave, anything in my life that I thought was relatively brave, I never realized the bravery at the time. It always just made sense. I never really was like, at the time was like, yeah, I'm doing something brave. Like this takes this is risky, right? It's not until later on you explain that to other people and then you sit back and go, man, that was borderline bravery and crazy.
That was kind of crazy.
Like that's borderline bravery. And you're like, wow, I don't believe I did that. At the time, was it a big deal? And when you look back at it now, or are you just kind of like, well, I just felt like doing it, so I did it, and I'm 61, I'm going to start a fitness franchise, and I don't care. Because because if somebody was like, did you go to your friend? Were there people that were like, you're gonna do what? You're gonna
Oh,
move
yeah.
where? Like, are you crazy? And you're like, yeah, I just felt like doing it. Like, what was that process like? Because I mean, Gray told me nothing about you, right?
I
Nothing.
know, just a little
Yeah.
bit.
Just like, hey, she's awesome. I want to have her on. I love her story. She battled it. She's badass, and we're gonna have her on. And I'm just like, yeah,
Okay.
right. And then I'm like, and I'm just gonna be honest. You came on, and it was you. It was great. I'm like, she's she she's 60. Like, that's what I thought. I was like,
Yeah.
like, and then this is on me. I was like, I was gonna expect 30, 40, start a franchise a couple years ago, because that's what my typical
Yeah.
brain goes to, right? Like
Right.
that's my typical brain that goes to. I think it's badass that at 61 you went, I'm moving to the South and I'm doing something different. I'm passionate about it. I'm opening 4 franchise and we're doing it. Like, when you look back at that, do you have any acknowledgement how kind of awesome that it, like, general population
Aw.
people can't reinvent themselves, right? Like I always say, like, it's hard to reinvent yourself, yet Madonna's done it 25 times. Right.
She's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
And
a marketing genius.
Yeah.
and at 61, like, was there anybody in your life that went, you're gonna do what?
You know, yeah. I mean, my daughter was like, you're going to do what? I mean, my daughter was like, what? She goes, what? Maybe like a coffee shop? She's like, and like, that's like risky, and it's a volatile business, and it's trendy, and I'm like, but it's the only thing I'm like super passionate about. I mean, like, if I could have, 2 things I wanted to do. I wanted to be a veterinarian up until the fact I couldn't really do well in inorganic chemistry. So that took care
Same.
of itself.
Wait, oh my gosh, same.
Yeah.
It's
So it
literally
was
the
like,
same.
okay, organic, I got it, nailed it, was crushing it. Inorganic came, and yeah, that kind of stopped my roll. Didn't slow it, just put the brakes on it. So,
Yeah.
and I would have been a personal trainer. I thought about it. It's like, quite frankly, greed and ego. I was making way too much money in sales at that point to change the life and go, wow, let me do something I'm passionate about. And for Rick and me, working wasn't just like, wow, that's so great, you work outside the house. It's like, no, I do that so we can pay my half the bills, right? Because
Right.
that's how we're going to live. So I kind of looked at it as a gift. I could do something I've always wanted to do later in life. So yeah.
And I'll tell you the difference too, just from, I mean, working in the fitness industry now for the last, God, 6 years, 5 years. Jane is one of the only owners I know of that is there every day. She's there every day. And again, what makes our studio so different is that you are there every day, and our team is there every day, and you jump in the workouts, and Rick jumps in the workouts, her husband. Like, it makes a huge difference, because not only have you built just a great studio, you've built a family unit. Like, we all feel like family, which is the best part ever, when you can then come into your fitness studio and not feel uncomfortable and not feel like it's constantly a challenge and like you don't know anybody. Like, we're all in this together. We all jump in each other's sessions. You come in, you jump in. It's the difference that you are there every day makes people feel like they want to be there every day.
Well, no, and I appreciate that, but I just think that's where, and Josh, to your point, maybe if I did it at 30 or 40, like, then it's a business, right? And this is passion. This is, I feel fortunate.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's the gift in it too. Maybe doing it later, you approach it differently. Because I mean, any of the franchises that you look at, it's like, oh, owner absent model. Okay, then you're doing it for the money.
Yeah.
You're not doing it because that's what you really want to do. And trust me, just like we talked about workouts, there's days I would prefer not to be there. And there's days that you have to deal with stuff that you're like,
human.
oh my God,
Yeah,
are
you're
you
human.
kidding me?
Yeah.
But I think that's the difference. And I think that's where, again, you count the blessing in it, is doing it for that versus just doing it for the money side of it.
Well,
Because that'll come if
Yeah.
you do it.
we made a comment a couple podcasts ago, is being in the industry, in the fitness industry as long as I have, I've seen, and I made this comment, I've seen a lot of people enter the fitness industry and either do a franchise, mostly franchise models, or CrossFit model. And it was a guy who was an accountant, and he's like, I'm gonna quit and do a franchise and do CrossFit because it was cool, and there's a lot of money in it. And in the fitness industry is one of those businesses, is I think it's one of those industries where if you're just getting involved in this because you want to make money, you're not going to stick and stay because it's hard.
Yeah.
And if you are not passionate about the people, and I've said this, so many people open franchises because they can financially afford. It doesn't say a lot about how much you know about the fitness industry. For a lot of people that own a franchise, it says more about your assets, because anybody can open those franchises. The ones that stick and stay are the people that have 100% passion about people, health, wellness. Yes, it's a business. It has to be a business. We have to supply ourselves. But I know people that have opened yoga studios, franchised the ballet stuff, bars, and they saw it as a business. And you know what? A lot of them failed
Mm-hmm.
because they really didn't care about, it wasn't a passion for them. It
Yeah.
sounds like to me, for you to be every day, you're pretty passionate about, like, this is important to you. Like, this is people's health and wellness, and what you're doing is, yes, it's a business. We have to have it. But like, when you do this at 61, it's because you're passionate about it. Right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think and you can attract people like Gray and people that have skin in the game for the people.
Yeah.
The word community and fitness gets thrown around so much. But that's your product. How you accomplish it, it can be based on your model. It can be a CrossFit studio that has a real thriving community, that the people really do care about each other. It could be a yoga studio. It's a throw around word, but you have to be invested in the community to make it be that safe space. Because if you're going to grow, it's like having a plant in the right size pot. It's
Right.
not going to grow. So if you don't have that, then people can't come in and take that first step across the threshold and go, yeah, I really want to try this,
Okay,
and stick
again,
with it.
that's something that's learned, right?
Mm.
Do you think what you did prior in your years in corporate sales help you, teach you how to build community and lead teams and be a leader? Like that sometimes seems to me that it's not super intrinsic for people. Do you think what you did before prepared you for what you do now?
Oh yeah, I mean, that was foundational. That was super foundational. And I think also is experiencing places that I didn't like. A lot of times is learn what you don't like and don't replicate that. Do this because this felt good. So it's not only the business acumen, but also where I like to work out, where I like to be, where it felt good to be there. So if you can capture that, whatever, and it's a myriad of things, right? It's instructors, it's the members, it's the people, it's a safe place, which is the most important thing. Because you felt that in gyms or in health clubs where it's like it's like everybody goes to hide in the back of the room. How do you get that person from the back of the room to the middle of the room?
Fitness is
They don't have to
vulnerable.
be a front row, right?
Fitness is vulnerable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Mm-hmm.
And so what can you do with how people are treated and managed, and sticking with real biblical principles too. It's like, it's just people, value where they are, value the fact that they had to, put themselves on the line a little bit to walk in. So how do you keep them staying, right? And so I think it's a lot of things, but fitness is about your psyche and the person and their well-being as much as it is about accomplishing the workout.
It's so true, especially when you're in a studio atmosphere. Like every time we have a staff meeting, one goal we always have collectively is how can you be more involved with the people that are coming in the door? How can you ask more questions about their lives? How can you be a friend to them when they walk in the door? And, for a lot of people, that could be something that's very exhausting. But I think because you and like the leadership team at SPENGA have set it as such a marker, we all enjoy it. We all love to be involved in everybody's lives. And then, in return, it has members coming in excited to be a part of ours too.
100%. And they love to share. I mean, I just look at the reactions from the membership when you got engaged.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not
cool.
fake. That's not,
yeah.
If you were just their instructor, nobody would care. Or
right.
they'd say, oh, congratulations, and keep walking.
Right.
It's, oh, I saw your post. Oh, I mean, because they're following you because they're interested in you as much as you're interested in them. It's that two-way street.
Yeah.
And they had so much joy for you.
Yeah.
Because you've given so much to them. See, that's the organic part of it. That's the natural part of it.
Well,
Yeah.
Jane, I tell people there's only one person in the world that would get me on a plane to fly to Montana. And that's Gray. That's Gray. There's only one person in the world that would ever get me on a plane to fly to Montana, and that's Gray Gaines. Yeah. I can second your comment about I've learned more from being around poor leaders and poor coaches than I have from good leaders and good coaches, because I learned very fast who I didn't want to be and how I didn't want others to experience me.
So true.
Right.
Yeah.
I love when you said that, because it kind of felt validated, like my feelings that, like, man, I know who I don't want to be because I've been around that person.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that person. So yeah, the leadership side, because you are a leader, Jane. I mean, whether you embrace the identifying role of leadership, I mean, you're the spearhead of that. I mean, and it's a heavy yoke to carry sometimes, right? Like I've owned a business, I've owned a gym. When people say you're the leader, you're like, oh, I want it to be about the people, but you have to embrace the fact that, right, you're the leader. I think when you have that, that when you have that mindset of about being about everybody's individual experience, and I use such good analogies. Everybody in fitness starts in the back of the room. How do you put them in the front of the room?
Yeah.
And that's huge, because in what we do and we do with nutrition clients, I sometimes forget how hard it is for people to reach out to you and say, I need help losing weight. How hard is it for somebody to walk that first time into SPENGA and take the first class, knowing if they're going to make it through it or not, right?
Yeah.
You don't know. You have to have some empathy for that. Like, something that always bothered me in the industry is right around the first of the year, the gym rats will start being like, oh, all these newbies coming in here for their their New Year's resolutions, and they're going to pack up my gym, and it'll be better in February when they all leave. I said, or you cannot be a jerk. And when you see somebody that doesn't know how to use a piece of equipment, because you're apparently the expert, right? Why don't you help that person, right? Show them how to use the piece of equipment. Why don't you show them how to use the treadmill, instead of thinking like you're the only entitled person that's allowed to have better health? Like, that always bothered me.
Yeah. Oh, and the thing is, everyone's always new, right? At something. And for those folks at the gym who are your vets, your OGs, they were new ones too. And somebody asked if they needed a spot, and somebody asked if they could work in with them, and somebody actually acknowledged them, right? So good for you, Josh, for challenging those people to, hey, you were there once. No big deal.
I had a guy. So when I sold my business, I moved to Georgia for a couple of years and then moved back. Um, and I worked at a gym, and there's this guy that used to always ask me questions for years, and I'd answer questions for him. And he lost a ton of weight and about all this stuff about exercise. And he was one of those guys that made that post and about New Year's resolution, or is acting like he's Arnold Schwarzenegger all of a sudden or something, right? And I commented, I was like, that's interesting, bro, because I remember you used to hit me up 24/7 to lose 25 pounds, and you were the newbie, and all of a sudden you're the bad dude. I was like, you've lost some perspective,
Yeah.
right? You've lost some perspective. I love the fact that you have empathy for how hard it is for that first person to walk into Spenga probably and do spinning, because I'll be honest with you, if I came up there to see Gray and stepped in a spin class right now, the chance of me making it through are minimal. I hate to say it, but like,
You
Well,
say
no,
that, but you'd be fine.
I don't
You'd
know.
be
I think
fine.
but you know, that shows my, now I've been in this industry forever, right?
right.
And I mean, I just proved my own point, right?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
the first thing I said? I'd be nervous to
Sure.
walk in, and I've been in this industry forever. People would probably look at me and be like, that dude's gonna kill it. He's in shape. Meanwhile, I'm gonna sit here and be like, I might fall out.
Yeah.
And I've been in this
100%.
forever. Think about the person
Right.
that's like been a stay-at-home mom for 15 years and hasn't worked out, and someone invited her to a Spenga class. She thinks she's gonna walk in, it's gonna be incredible people looking phenomenally in shape. And you two have to create an environment that that person feels just as comfortable, and you got to get them through it and get them to day 2.
Yeah.
And we had a gal yesterday. She drove by, thought she'd give it a try. Julia talked to her initially, who's our manager and who's an angel. And we, she was nervous, did the first step, and actually did incredibly well in the class. And we were talking to her afterwards, and we're not real hard closers. We try to be conversant and just actually see where they are, see where it'll fit. Because I want somebody to feel good about their decision, not feel like, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that. So, end of the day, Julie got her into a really good conversation about the workout. And she admitted, she goes, I've been walking. I don't want to work hard. We're like, okay. And she said, so then Julia, in her way, asked her, well, how did it feel? And do you feel like you accomplished something, even though you don't like, I get that. And she said, I know I have to do this. And then one of our members jumped in and talked about working hard and how she's come to really look forward to it as part of her routine. And so she's going to come back a second time. And one, to see how she feels the next day, give her a recovery day. And we gave her another session to just see if it would be part of her regular routine. Not the linchpin, not this is the main and then filter in with walking. How can you integrate this to do the thing you know in your heart that you have to do and you want to do? So lean into that little bit. So yeah, Josh, that's the point. She was shocked she survived it. She actually did very, very well. But the encouragement to sit there and go, okay, you got this. And I think she'll wind up being a member in a limited fashion to start. And that's what you want.
Yeah.
That's the kind of people you want.
Well, not argue too. Like, I mean, our workout is fun. It is hard. It is a hard workout. But if you're coming in there and you're not having fun while you're working out, you're going to have fun still. You're definitely still going to have fun. So even if the workout part is hard, SPENGA as a brand has designed it in a sense where it's still fun to be in the studio. It's still lively and there's music going and the crowd is fun. Like the members that are there are fun. And so even if you're not enjoying it from a workout standpoint, it still feels good. So that's really unique.
That's how you can keep somebody coming, because it's got to be a joyful part of your day, not the worst part of your day, right?
Right. 100%.
Yeah, we have nutrition clients that'll they'll hit us up, or we'll do a consult. And I think I use my closing or my consultation with people in nutrition as a way to almost talk them out of working with us. Like, ooh, you better make sure you're ready. You know, like
Yeah.
I want to make sure
Sure.
they're ready. Right? I want to manage their expectation. And they'll be like, are you gonna make me eat egg whites? I hate egg whites. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna make you do anything, because if I make you eat egg whites, you'll do this for like 5 days and you'll quit. Like, yeah, you
Right.
gotta make it somewhat enjoyable for a grown adult, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
And
it's
you
the
have to-
mindset of longevity.
Exactly. And meeting them where they are to get them on a journey. That's all.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to start where they are.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, this has been so much fun. I've enjoyed it. Jane, if you will you leave us with maybe some closing remarks? Maybe tell us your favorite SPENGA workout you've ever done and tell us why you love being in this industry.
I love being in this industry because you get to actually make a difference
Yeah.
to the people that will allow you that opportunity. My favorite SPENGA workout of all time is when the bike is the shortest. So mom's my favorite. So to your point, Josh, I'm more of a power cycle girl. So if I can get off in 19 instead of the 20 minutes, I'm good with that. And
yeah.
yay. And but it's a cardio. I've never been a cardio kid anyway. So I enjoy that cardio the most. EMOM workouts I find the most challenging. And anything with a kettlebell makes me happy.
My girl. So that Jay
Jane,
lower body EMOM with the kettlebell.
There you go.
Jane, I'll say this with all sincerity. I think I am glad you made the change into this industry at 61. I think that's awesome. I think we need more people like your passion for it radiates from you. I love it. It makes me want to be better at it. It makes it I've learned from this conversation, I've learned I think I'm going to steal your comment of going from the back of the room to the front of the room, right?
Cool.
I love it. I'm going to use that. I love your story. I love anybody that at one point is not afraid to reinvent themselves out of passion. I think that's cool. I think the best way to say is it's as simple as it can be. It's cool that you did that. I think people need you in the industry, because everybody struggles with the first step into the gym. And if we bring people into the industry who make it easier and more comfortable for someone's first step towards fitness, I say the more the merrier.
Yeah. What a way to end it. There it is. There it is. He's back. That brain power's back. I missed it.
Yeah. I appreciate you, Jane. We'll
thanks so much for being here.
I think this is so much stuff that people can relate to. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time and the opportunity to meet with you, Josh. And great, anything for you, baby. Anything.
I agree.
I miss you already.
Even a plane to Montana will do it.
Exactly right. Anything for Gray.
With all due respect.